I don't know a lot about you. I'm meeting you for the first time, but I already think you're batshit crazy. You went ahead and you bought yourself a professional sports team, huh?
Yes. Moved out to Cyprus about a year ago, and upon moving out in my midlife crisis, I bought a football team. So I'm doing that now as well.
The Business of Betting podcast is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming industry. 4 out of the top 5 US operators personalize player experiences with Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming industry. Learn more about Optimove by requesting a demo at optimove.com/businessofbetting. And if you like what you see, you will get your first month free.
All right, welcome back to another edition of the Business of Betting podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Edelstein, senior analyst at InGame. I am joined today by John Gordon, the founder and CEO of Incentive Games. John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I'm delighted to be here.
So I know you're out there in Cyprus. It's post-dinner time or pre-dinner time. We have a cocktail waiting for you over there, John. What are we doing?
I'm Scottish, so I've always got a beer to hand. So my wife's bringing me up a beer as we speak. So
what are we drinking tonight? Let's give a free plug to a beer company.
It's a local beer here called Kio, local Cypriot company. Yeah.
I got a buddy of mine has like an app of like all the beer, like he tracks every beer he's ever had. I was with him the other night. He hit the 3,000th beer, different brand of beer he's had. I said, both congratulations. And, maybe we should talk to someone.
Yeah, I might be up there with him, to be honest, in that number of beers.
So we got plenty to talk about. The first thing I want to touch on, though, is that I don't know a lot about you. I'm meeting you for the first time, but I already think you're batshit crazy. You went ahead and you bought yourself a professional sports team, huh?
Yes. Amongst other things, yeah. Moved out to Cyprus about a year ago. 90% of my team are in Edinburgh, and that's where I went to university as a chemical engineer. And my founders and I are all mathematicians and engineers, and we built the team from there about 13 years ago. We founded the company. Moved out to Cyprus about a year ago, and upon moving out in my midlife crisis, I bought a football team. So I'm doing that now as well.
So the team's based in Cyprus? Is it a league out there?
Yeah. Based in Cyprus. I'm looking to take them to Europe. We're currently in the 5th division, and I'm looking to take them to the 1st division and get them to European competition.
Did the idea come to, I'd love to own a sports team myself, but did the idea come to you from Hollywood duo with the Wrexham?
Yeah, I tried to get in on that deal, believe it or not, all those years ago, and I didn't make it. They didn't really understand where I was coming from in terms of my approach, but it was a no-brainer to see what they've done. And I think there's certain countries around Europe where there's a sort of underbelly where you could make it to Europe. So, like say Cyprus, Gibraltar, Kazakhstan, Scotland to a certain extent, whereas Wrexham are doing phenomenally well, and so are Salford, both like amazing stories. But there's always going to be a limit in my head in England to get to the Champions League or European competition because of the Liverpools, the Cities, and Manchester United and Chelsea and all those teams. It's much easier in other countries apparently, so that's what I'm looking at doing.
So yeah, are you having fun with it? Has there been a point where, I'm sure it's fun, so like let's not even talk about the fun stuff. Has there been a point when you're like, oh fuck man, what the hell did I get myself into?
Yeah. The guys are smoking at halftime and smoking before the match, and I'm tearing my hair out because I was a sort of okay player when I was younger at certain decent levels, and then my players are smoking at halftime. So it was definitely a wake-up call, and it's definitely a sort of rags part of the story at the moment, but it's really fun. There's nothing beats, getting a win or getting a goal, and we are like literally the bottom of the pyramid here, but I'm looking to really document it all. I've just hired some social media guys to document it all. We're going to get through the leagues hopefully and take them to Europe. We've got, Paphos where I live is quite rich in its history for doing that. About 5 years ago, or maybe 7, Paphos FC were bankrupt, and now they're in the Champions League. They've got David Luiz and some superstars that live here. They play for Paphos FC, so there's a blueprint there as well. So it's quite exciting, yeah.
One last question about this. How much of like the day-to-day operations are you like neck deep in it, or do you have people that are doing that for you?
Yeah, you might be surprised how little resource there is in a 5th division football team. So when you buy the club, the coach is doing the social media, the coach is trying to get the guys to do this and that. There's 1 or 2 other people. So there's very few people to sort of on the non-playing side. So you end up doing a lot. I was at training last night with the guys and I go to all the matches and I'm quite hands-on, and that's the sort of CEO I am as well. I like to sort of know what's going on, and that's the fun part as well, isn't it? It's so far so good, but certainly it's maybe not as easy as I thought it would be, but a few ups and downs, but it's amazing.
Well, let's talk about the day job, and I'm sure the night job as well, as founder and CEO of Incentive Games. Why don't you just tell us in your own words, like what exactly it is you guys have been doing and your role in the industry?
I laugh at this. Where it started the company, it starts in, as many good stories starts, it starts in a tax haven. When I was living in Trinidad and Tobago, I was a chemical engineer there and I was working for BP. And when I lived in the islands there, I used to see all the DraftKings and FanDuel adverts. And I thought it was a great idea to have a fantasy football betting company. So this was like 13 years ago. And so I quit my job as a chemical engineer, moved back to the UK and started a company which evolved into Incentive Games. But we started as a fantasy football betting company. We got our UK pool betting license and built games from there, B2C. I then sold Premier Punt, which was our B2C brand, and pivoted into B2B free-to-play games, which is what Incentive Games became. Over the past few years, we quickly became the number one free-to-play games provider in the world, in the industry. So like tens of millions of entries into our games per month. FanDuel, Reward Machine is one of our games. DraftKings, we do sports games for them. We do all the Bet365 amazing products, free-to-play, amongst Betway and all the other big brands out there. And it's been an amazing ride. So we had some great success there. So Incentive Games, I'm very proud to say, has done very well over the last 6 or 7 years or so. We've been on the up and up, yeah.
So when it comes to these free-to-play games, I play them. I'm in New Jersey. I'm in iCasino State. And I play a FanDuel game every day. I got to be honest with you, it's giving me a headache. I don't like the bursting, shaking of, every time I hit a cherry or whatever. But I won't bitch too loudly about it. But what is the goal here? What brings me back to it every day? I mean, I know what brings me back to it. The hope to win a few pennies to, put back into the system. But like, there has to be something deeper than that, than the hope for me to win, 10 cents or 2 free spins. Like, what is the behavioral side of it that keeps me coming back to it?
What an amazing question. Very few people actually ask me that. So first of all, that's my game, Reward Machine, right? It's got all the bursts and everything. And I hate to say it, but that's Americans like things over the top. And that's why we do over the top animations and haptic feedback where needed. But ultimately, we do it in Africa. We do every continent, vastly successful. And in Africa, they're not as over the top. And ultimately, it boils down to, as I said, I'm a chemical engineer. So we do everything based on science. A lot of it's behavioral science and a lot of it's untested, but we build the foundations and build on top of it. But it all comes down to behavior equals motivation times ability times trigger. So you need these 3 things: motivation, ability, trigger. Motivation is very expensive. That's what some books like Actionable Gamification will talk about, what the 8 key core drives why anyone does anything. In this example, you've got the lure of some variable reward. In this sense, it's free money, free spins. And you come back every day. Ability is how easy is it to conduct that certain action, right? So it's free to play. It's part of the social norm. You don't need to use a cognitive brain to do it. It's just one big button. And I can talk all day about that, but that's about UX, UI. But thoroughly most important, what no one thinks about is trigger, right? So why it becomes, so at the start, FanDuel and all my clients have to promote the game, right? It needs to be on the billboards. It needs to be on the app. They need a trigger to play the game. But over time, that becomes an internal trigger and it becomes part of your daily habit. 6 p.m. unlock every day, and they get into that habit. And that becomes an internal trigger, and that's the most powerful tool of what we do. So that brings them back to the site. And ultimately, then it's up to our client to have the best products in there, right? So the best sportsbook, the best iGaming casino, the best live casino, the best table games. And when you put all that together with Incentive Games, you get a very fortunate, profitable cycle. I'll give you an example just quickly there. If you're a tier 4 operator and you, Jeff, create Jeff betting online, Incentive Games isn't going to be able to make you, we can get them back to the site, but they'll quickly realize you don't have online poker or you don't have the cash out on sports or whatever. You need to have everything else in place, which is why we tend to work with tier 1s on their free-to-play games only.
I know in the UK, much more mature online market than here in America. The last few years, a lot of regulatory pressure, a lot of studies, a lot of, trying to set up new rules around sports betting and iGaming. America's catching up a little bit now. As quickly as we launch sports betting, the pushback has been coming. iCasino has been a little slower to launch. Only 7 or 8 states now have passed legislation. Is there a concern, or is there any regulatory concern when it comes to free to play? In that, is there a line that you guys draw in your own head between harmless fun for retention and something that's maybe manipulating people to get back here every day? Now, again, and I say this as someone who happily gets back there every single day.
We take things very responsibly, and I think that's where we just do our bit. I don't do the KYC, I don't check anything. Thankfully, my partners are the highest respectable partners in the world, right? So FanDuel wouldn't risk its multi-billion-dollar status by letting problem gambling be conducted on their site. They look after the customers properly. And the way, I know the guys personally at FanDuel and 365, amazing people. They don't treat their people, their customers, like users. They treat them like they're entertaining them like Netflix, right? That they don't look at the customers like users, right? And they're not looking to get as much money out of them as possible, as shortly as possible. They've got a bigger goal, which is looking after their enterprise value and looking after. So, in the past, there's, when I worked with a tier 4 operator in Africa, they'd ask me to do certain things that I wouldn't do. And you don't get that with the top tier ones. They don't think like that, especially the new guys coming through. I'd be remiss of me not to mention my biggest, most exciting sort of venture at the moment, which is Incentive Studios. So we do real money iGaming games like Crash and Arcade. And we only started about a year ago, and they're quickly becoming very, very popular. So like the Aviator or Spribe games, we've got Crash and Arcade games that are mainly focused for the regulated markets. So unlike some other providers that I'm not going to mention, we only get licensed in the UK, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ontario, Quebec, Brazil, South Africa, and operate in those markets. And so we need to be responsible there as well. So we have the highest standards. So our real money games, we need to make sure we're doing best practices. When we're doing cartoon characters within the games, we're very, very best in class standards. Even if for example, another slot provider might do a cartoony cute piggy in their game, we don't. If we're doing a character, it's very adult themed, and we're always staying on the right side as best practices. So yeah, we take it a very high bar in what we do.
You strike me as someone who is not afraid to turn over an apple cart now and again. Is there anything new under the sun that you think you might be able to bring to paid slot games?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked. You're very good at guys. We didn't even rehearse this, but these are brilliant questions. Because we were so used to being the number one at what we do in the free to play space, and I've got some other companies involved in like Hot Takes that are great at driving traffic. They're going to be the number one at that as well in Canada and the US. So I've got a high bar, and we're also looking at if we're coming into the space, we need to be one of the big players. So we look to be the number one Crash and Arcade game provider in the regulated markets. And to do that, you can't just replace a plane with a rocket and expect to get market share. So we went back to 7 fundamental changes to disrupt the market, primarily maths. So we're looking at, we don't do slot games at the moment, but we do Crash games, and we're looking at what works well in slots and taking some of those features over, the mechanics over into Crash and Arcade. But I've been working on a feature or a mechanic in a Crash game that I'm just launching in the next few weeks and months across the world. And it's like a sort of bonus game within the Crash game, which no other game has. And I've been working on the maths for almost 2 years, and we just cracked it at the end of December. So fundamental maths, how can we make it feel generous enough and make it a bonus game in the Crash game? Our free-to-play components, if you win free, like the reward machine example there, the free-to-play credit you win in the free-to-play game, often you need to use them in my real money games. And we've got sort of surge and boosts and bonus and jackpots and all those mechanics that just are not present in current Crash games. So really excited about that.
I just want to back up real quick. I want to go back to the free-to-play for a second. Here in the States, the FanDuels and the DraftKings, just blowing through billions of dollars on promos and free promos and advertising and everything. And I feel like you and your company are basically saying engagement trumps acquisition. Like get people on the site to play the game for free. And that's worth so much more than like what you're spending in advertising and promos. Is that a fair assessment, or am I off base there?
It's honestly the best assessment I've had. Like, very few people understand it like that. And so much so that a lot of operators, apart from the top ones, understand it properly as well, right? So they even getting to realize that if you spend a bit of money on our games, it just compounds, right? The retention and the engagement is through the roof. And we are the best in the world at it, and we're specialists at it and scientists. And what looks very simple, like the reward machine, just turn up and press a button, is extremely complex. Just like the iPhone looks really simple because there's only one button on it, if any. The real clever stuff is in the back end. And what we tend to do as well is we just don't make them think, right? The customer, if you're asking a customer to come to a loyalty program and choose coins and win coins, and then you can exchange those coins for this, as soon as they start using the cognitive part of the brain, they're not going to, get into a habit of coming back every day. And it's very complex. We do all the thinking behind the scenes, give the user the exact reward they're supposed to get based on the player value we know they are, and take all the thinking out of it and give them the reward served up seamlessly. So retention, it's more difficult than it sounds, because engagement these days, eyeballs, attention is very important and obviously sought after. But you did nail it on the head. Right? Retention is more important. You need both, but retention will keep the users there for longer. And acquisition is just a fight to the bottom, right? And there's been so many operators out there that have fallen by the wayside because of it.
Yeah, you mentioned simple games compared to complex. And I assume that there is. Is there science behind what you guys do when it comes to how long it takes to play a free game, or how long the operator wants you sitting around playing a free game?
Absolutely. We've got a great data team. They're actually called Incentive Labs. They don't like being called data team. They're labs science guys. So we've got a relatively large data team that all they do is look at these metrics and what we can see in our game, and we're just obsessed about it. So yeah, it is. You need to really sort of fixate on it to get the rewards, to be honest.
If you had, I'm imagining that you guys keep a pretty close watch on what's happening here in the U.S. market. There's a lot of people who like to gamble, and there's a lot of states that do not have online casino. I mean, do you have a guess as to, if states are going to jump on board these days, and are you ready for it?
I mean, we do free-to-play sports, free-to-play casino, and we do real money gaming, and we do all that in North America. It's one of my biggest, if not, they're my number one focus. There's a lot of money to be made in the sweepstakes side. We, just like every other decision I've ever made for the company, we just err on the side of caution. We don't think it's going to be around forever. And, those three big casino states for my clients probably make as much as their business outside of the US combined. So those three states are well big enough, plus Ontario, plus what we're going to be doing in Quebec. And then, we're here for the long game. So we just keep ourselves to ourselves, keep making the best games. And as the states open up on sports and casino, we're there. But I don't make too much predictions in it.
Let me ask you this also. Again, the free to play aspect of it, there's so much like human behavior aspect. Anything counterintuitive that you learned through the 13 years of doing this that surprises you?
Yeah, loads. It's a good question. From sports to casino, I mean, what surprises most people is that you think that it's going to be the bonus abusers that we engage the most. And I could tell you right now, I could bring up the data, I won't because it's sensitive, but every single time we're actually engaging the higher value customers more than the bonus abusers. And that's because we give them prize that they deserve for that segment value. So a bonus abuser or a low value customer maybe get 15 cents per week, 20 cents per week, maybe 50 cents if it's America. But the VIPs might be getting $50 to $100 per week. So that's enough for them to really be engaged. And then in turn, that has a massive, massive impact on the revenue for our clients. So there is a sort of free to play sort of hangover that it's for bonus abusers, but it's not, amongst many, many other learnings. Yeah.
How much of this, so a lot of the games, I don't want to say they're similar, but they have a similar cadence almost. And I'm not sure which games are yours or which aren't, but it's like you got 3 shots at this and then you move on to the next thing. Is there anything, I asked a new under the sun when it came to paid, games, anything new under the sun when it comes to free stuff? I mean, is there, as a player myself, I want to be engaged a lot, are there anything that you're working on that leads to I guess more engagement or something that is a little bit different?
On the free-to-play sports side, we have hugely engaging games. When we did for Bet365 recently, rather than doing a March Madness game, we do this for the Champions League in Europe and all these other games. But instead of just answering all the questions, all the way in each round in a one-off, right? So you're taking 15 minutes and you do your March Madness bracket all the way to the end. What we do is we do it round per round. So what we saw, I'm not a big fan of March or a sort of tournament style games because it's a huge engagement. Everyone gets excited and then a massive drop off in engagement. And that's not what we're here for. Whereas we did it round per round and a massive difference. Specifically, we did it for the Champions League for Bet365, and for the 8 rounds it was hugely engaging and huge retention rates, and people were coming back and changing their picks, and we made all sorts of features like that. And the points were based on the odds of the probability of the teams winning. So in the American style, so Duke were playing, I don't know, Michigan, you would get different amounts of points based on the probability of each of those things coming in, as opposed to a traditional bracket where there are no weightings typically. We're doing a lot of that stuff. We did a lot of the early games where you get a random player, and if that player gets a touchdown or a goal in the game, you get prizes. So the cadence would be, collect during the week, and then the live event, collect players for the weekend or teams for the weekend. That live event will happen and you would get rewarded. So what we were getting is if it was a 5-day week, on average, they were revealing 4.1 times per week. And then they would check over the weekend about 4 or 5 times. So for one free-to-play game, we're getting 10 logins. And that could be 50 cents or sometimes nothing, and sometimes €1 or $1. So if you look at the engagement for an operator that logged it in 10 times per week in the US or Canada or the UK, that's invaluable to, 5 cents per login. And then obviously they can do what they want, but often they're doing other things on the site, and it's that sort of psychology that no one's really thinking it like that. So, and that's where we made a business.
Well, that kind of leads me into another question here. I mean, is there anything that the industry is underestimating right now? I'll make you CEO of every gambling company in the world. What do you think that they're missing?
I know a lot of the CEOs, and I don't think the industry is the most cutting edge. I genuinely don't, but the CEOs of those companies are phenomenal. And I doubt there's anything that I could sort of tell them other in my niche areas of re-winning gaming and crash and free to play. The big ones tend to have done phenomenally well. And I think even to the point where we would, on the face of things, think that they're spending too much money on acquisition. As a general rule, they typically got a strategy about backing out of that and then retaining them for longer. So no, I think it's an exciting time. On the sports side, there's less innovation, and then I just love what the likes of FanDuel are doing on the casino side. I mean, the product looks phenomenal. They've got great people that they did well, Sky Vegas, Andy Gradwell, and all those guys that went over and just made the product in America amazing on the FanDuel casino side. So I've got huge respect for especially the people at the top, and I think they're just best in class at what they do.
So you've been at this a while. Has there been features that you guys have come up with that you absolutely just loved and thought it was going to be awesome, and they didn't take for one reason or another?
I mean, we tend to do the opposite. We keep it stripped back, but I've had many, many fails on what I think my hypothesis is going to be a game changer, and then it doesn't, too many to recall. But I think, and it's an iterative process, what we do. It's like climbing a mountain one step at a time. But yeah, I mean, it's always going down alleys and then seeing the data and changing your perspective. That's what we do here.
Going back to the beginning, you said you were a chemical engineer to start. Did you have a couple billboards, tuned you into all this? Did you have any interest in any of this, growing up? Or is this something that you just caution to the wind kind of thing?
Yeah, I was always writing algorithms to beat the bookmakers and coming up with theories, and I was always betting people a lot of money on traditional fantasy sports season long before there was betting on it. We were always looking at the probability of things happening and then trying to get an edge and placing bets. I was actually doing that with a professor of statistics from Liverpool University when Victor Chandler heard about me and personally, and he got in touch, and we've been working together ever since, and he's an investor in my company. So no, I've every aspect of gaming and gambling and everything I've been passionate from as long as I could remember.
What did mom and dad have to say when you decide to hang up the chemical engineering degree and to pursue this?
Yeah, they were a bit surprised. And I was actually quite an established chemical engineer at the time. I was a lead chemical engineer for BP. But they were very supportive. They own shares in my company and they knew I was always destined for something strange. So yeah, very supportive. But it was quite a career change after all that investment.
That's awesome. I wanted to circle back to one thing that you kind of mentioned earlier about how the games, at least the payouts can be different depending on the quality of the player that's playing them, as far as if they're bonus hunting or if they're more VIP type. How much more personalization can happen at the free game level, where FanDuel might know that, well, I like playing this type of slot instead of that type of slot. So here's your free game is going to be geared more towards that kind of thing.
Yeah, so on the exit page, that's what we call, at the end of the use of the free-to-play journey, we show them which games they can use the credits in. So that can be very dependent on if you're a table games player or a crash game player, or sometimes we cross-sell from sports to casino and vice versa. So it's all contextual, and it's really how much is the operator forward-thinking enough, how much are they willing to sort of share with us, and we can work together to meet their KPIs. And the more they share with us, the more adaptive we can be. But at the same time, a lot of that stuff is quite early stages. The industry is not really geared up to that. I mean, everyone's been saying it for 10 years, but I don't think there's that much personalization going on at the moment, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I agree with you, which is why, honestly, the free-to-play game seems like a great, funnel almost to personalization, right? Where, you could really, based on player preferences, you could create free-to-play games for them that feeds them back into the, the system. I don't know. You're right, though. Like what you said earlier, I feel like very much infancy stages when it comes to all this stuff.
To that point, though, we're doing, if we got reward machine, I'll sort of keep using that just because you brought it up as an example. But what we're doing for my big clients now is the user can choose which game they can play for the week. So you can't play all 3 free-to-play games for the week. So you might have reward machine or a free-to-play rocket game or a table game, free-to-play table game. But when you choose one, you're locked in for the week, and the return to player has a different volatility. So imagine your what we call target reward value is $2.10 for the week. And reward machine, for instance, might be medium volatility. So some weeks you might get $3, some weeks you might get $2, but on average you'll get $2.10. You might choose a more volatile free-to-play game. So not only is it like a crash game, but you're choosing a volatility that is more akin to what you want. So some weeks you might get $10, but some weeks you'll get $0. It will average out at $2. Or maybe you go for a low volatility game where every single week you get $2.10. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing, not only on the type of game, but also what do you want? I really don't care about 25 cents. I want $10 or nothing. We're building games for that. And then on the exit page, if you've chosen the table game, you're going to probably want to play table games on the exit page. And we've got live casino style product, free to play game. And on the exit page, you'll be shown live casino as opposed to slots, for example.
All right, listen, John, a real pleasure meeting you. I wish I was there with you. I'd be drinking a beer with you. Last thing before you go here, not really a question, it's just more of an offer. If you're ever in the market for like a Ted Lasso, somebody who knows nothing about soccer to coach your team, I'll throw my resume in there.
Yeah, I'd love to have you. That'd be brilliant. We'll make a documentary with that. That'd be funny.
Excellent. All right, John, thank you so much for taking some time. Enjoy your evening, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me, mate.
The Business of Betting podcast is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming industry. 4 out of the top 5 U.S. operators personalize player experiences with Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming industry. Learn more about Optimove by requesting a demo at optimove.com/businessofbetting. And if you like what you see, you will get your first month free.